Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in again. This video is going to be about the video that Shane Dawson called the $20 million deal with Jeffree Star. Very exciting stuff, so let's get right to it. This video is the fourth in the series for Shane Dawson about Jeffree Star and about building a product from the ground up. And the really interesting thing about this particular video is they start on what is absolutely the most important part of any brand, the icon, which is the trademark, the image that represents that brand. See, a lot of folks don't realize that it's the brand equity that makes sales. Anybody could make a soda pop, anybody could make clothing, anybody could make cosmetics. But if you don't have the brand name with it, no one will buy it. Just because people fall in love with brands. And so establishing an iconic image is absolutely vital. Now remember something too, especially in the fashion world as a whole, especially with clothing, you can't trademark a clothing design, a dress design, or a jacket or pants, but you can trademark the brand name. That's why this video starting on deciding on what the iconic image will be is so important. Around 3 minutes and 40 seconds, Jeffree makes a distinction about decisions that are being made, especially when it comes to something as important as the trademark or the image that's going to represent Shane's whole line, everything he ever produces from now and into the future. And he makes it clear, listen, I thought some of those first round icons were really cool, but if you don't like them and you're not feeling them, forget it. We'll just make all new, because only your feelings matter. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. This has to represent you. It's a very powerful statement because a lot of people don't understand when it comes to building something that represents who they are or the values that they want to represent. They start to think too much about what other people are thinking or feeling and don't want to hurt feelings and don't want to do this. But the fact of the matter is, if it's your creation, you must take ownership of it. And so go ahead and express your feelings. You can be diplomatic about it. That's a good word. You can say, hey, I really appreciate your input, but this is my project and it's really important to me that this feels right for me. I hope you understand that. So this is a very good lesson in communication and negotiations, especially in business, because in business, the market will tell you if you make any sense or not, or if you're any good or not. If you're no good, you won't sell. And Jeffree knows this, and so he needs to tap into Shane's creativity, or rather have Shane tap into his own creativity and feel free to do that. Now, around 5 minutes and 50 seconds, we see Shane and his partner going back to their old house. Why did they spend so much time looking backwards at this old house and all of the memories of what had occurred there and how they had built the channel and how they'd built their following and how they'd had so much fun and built their lives there? Why did they spend such a big chunk of that looking backwards when things are going so good for them? The reason is it's important to acknowledge the value of your experiences and recognize that now is the time to move forward. That was a beautiful example of that important lesson in anyone's life. Around 11 minutes and 58 seconds, we see Jeffree switch gears and shift into business mode. He is preparing Shane for the call with Morphe. He's explaining the strategy and what they're going to say and how he wants to say certain things and represent himself in certain ways, because he's trying to elicit responses from Morphe, and he needs Shane to be on the same page and understand why he's saying certain things. This is a very good example of preparation before any important negotiation. Before you even go to a job interview, you should imagine you're speaking to yourself about, okay, if this is asked, this is what I'm going to respond. Does that sound all right? You can even do it with friends or family. Does that sound like a good response? Does it sound like that I should be hired for this position? Any important negotiation should have a strategic meeting beforehand, and you should practice what you're going to say in the occurrence of anything that might happen. They could say yes, they could say no, or they could wait. What are you going to say in those instances? If they say yes, how much is it worth to you? If they say no, how bad do you how bad do you want to win them over? How much is it worth to you to spend the time or giving up percentages to be able to win them over? Those meetings beforehand are absolutely vital, and that's a great example of one right there. 1357. A very important phrase is spoken that needs to be expanded upon, and I already touched on this a little bit in earlier videos. The idea is that this launch will start with a certain number of pallets that they expect to sell. That has nothing to do with the whole next year or 5 years or 10 years that come down the road selling the same product. Why? Because it's one of the people's favorites, or they just love Shane still. And he's got new products out too, but they also go back and they buy this one because they like that too. So this is something that occurs one time. You've got your one launch to get the word out there, but then once you do, especially if you launch it well, you set the grain for future sales. I wouldn't even want to guess at how much Shane Dawson's product line will sell for in the future. Right before they get on the phone with Morphe, at about 14 minutes and 50 seconds, Jeffree and Shane decide to put Rich Lux's new music video on the screen and jump around the room together having fun. This is an excellent way to reduce first-time jitters, to bring nerves down and questions about what if this and what if that and what if it all goes wrong. You start having fun and you feel good in the middle of a situation that was just a minute ago very stressful, and guess what? Suddenly you're relaxed and you can think again, and you can actually remember what you're supposed to say, and maybe even respond more level-headed, in a level-headed fashion when you hear things on the phone, because you just feel good. As a matter of fact, as if you notice, as the phone call continues, you see Jeffree prompting Shane to make funny signs and have fun with it, and he's shaking his head around because it's all good news, right? It's all good stuff. And so he wants Shane to enjoy the moment and relax and be able to follow the directions they had set in the strategic meeting. Now there's a blue blood 2-week reveal mark that's mentioned at about 16:23 in the video. And this is a really good example of he's working on Shane's entire product line, and at the same time, Jeffree is launching his own product. Now think about that for a second. When he was planning his year, he knew he was going to be releasing a new palette, True Blood, right? That means when Shane came along and he decided to do a whole product line with Shane, everything shifted for the year. Because everything they're doing for Shane, he had to do too. He had to pick colors, he had to pick names, he had to go through all of the steps for manufacturing and finding out cost and what are stores willing to purchase, how many should we order, all of that for True Blood also. And it's interesting because Jeffree says, I'm really nervous. There's one point where he says, if I don't have 1 million likes on this Instagram post, it's going to flop. And of course, it's over 1 million. People love Jeffree and they love his high quality products, so it's no surprise. But remember something. While he's managing all of this stuff with Shane, he's also launching his own. That's a huge responsibility. That's a lot of attention. It's amazing that this guy, Jeffree, is able to juggle all that. And who knows how many other products he's still selling and launching and manufacturing for all of the other artists that he works with. Kudos to Jeffree. Now, around 18 minutes and 31 seconds, you see the Morphe call start. And it's very brief, but something very important is said during that call that a lot of folks won't catch. If you've never been on a business call at that level, this was a really good lesson about the first steps in etiquette. You want to ask who's on the call But even more importantly, you need to know their job, their title, where they work. So their job, who they are, right? And where do they work? Because then you know how to answer questions from them better. If they're asking for a specific part of the plan and they want to know the details of this, you can address that specifically, or you can have someone who's better versed in that particular part of the industry answer it for you. Be the difference between Jeffree answering or Shane answering, or his a manufacturing manager answering, or even his design manager answering the question. Right? And so they each introduce their teams and their titles. Very important step. At about 20 minutes in, you hear Jeffree describing each of the products that they've designed for Shane. And the really wonderful thing is how subtly Jeffree is selling these products to Morphe. Listen to the words he chooses. Listen to the way he describes each of the products. It's really smooth and you'd barely notice it, but you feel excited about each product. And maybe you don't know why, but the fact of the matter is Jeffree is on a sales pitch right then. He's explaining to them and he's sharing the emotion and the impact that he feels from it, but he doesn't realize he's actually pitching very, very well. That's why it's easy to actually buy into it, because it doesn't sound like a sales pitch. It just sounds like Jeffree sharing how excited he is about these incredible products. I've got to buy them. That's the idea. It's never really a sale. What you're doing is you're giving people what they're looking for. And he knows he's speaking to Morphe, and what they're looking for is the next exciting thing. Well done, Jeffree. At about 22 minutes and 20 seconds, Jeffree and Shane, well, actually it's Shane that says it, springs the date of November 1st on Morphe. This is brilliant because, and it's so wonderful they caught it on camera, because what that does, if I just could have been a fly on the wall on the other side of the phone call to see Morphe's response, they probably all stopped in their tracks and went, oh my God, this is the holiday product. What are we going to do? And they talk about that. They ask later, is there something else that conflicts? You know, are there other releases that are coming? And sure enough, they were going to be doing an anniversary for another YouTuber. So now they have to renegotiate and they have to go back and try and amend and repair, because they know Shane's is going to be the big release. They were just going to do a repeat of an anniversary that occurred a year before. It was a successful product. They were going to re-release it and it was going to be great, and that was going to be their part of their holiday. So their first response is, can we get him to bump the date up just a little bit so we can keep our schedule with the other artists that we're working with? But Shane holds his ground, as he was coached to do by Jeffree. And he says, you know, October just feels kind of cheap because then it's conspiracy and Halloween and it's kind of scary, and that's the wrong thing. The impression I want the public to have with this product is it should be for every day. It should be something that you use all year long and is very important in your lifestyle. Then they realize what Jeffree's doing as far as an investment with this artist. You don't just make the product release during the holidays unless you know for sure this is where all your focus is going. So they're shocked at first, but the next realization is, oh my gosh, this is going to be huge and we need to be part of it. At around 23 minutes and 14 seconds or so, you see a really good example of a conference call etiquette. This is what happens. Morphe is talking to them, and they've just made it clear how very interested they are in partnering fully with Shane and with Jeffree. And while Jeffree expected it, the numbers and the interest is far stronger than he anticipated. In fact, they bring up the idea of exclusivity first. They bring up several things first, which means they've been talking about it for a long time with corporate, that we need to partner with these guys. This is going to make us a lot of money. In fact, I predict that this puts Morphe on the map in a way they've never experienced before as a company overall. So what happens is once Jeffree recognizes the idea that they really want in and they're willing to do pretty much whatever we ask them to do, he mutes the phone and gives directions to Shane, right? He asks him to find out who are they working with still and why are they pushing for October instead of November, and find out more, get more information about where their headspace is, because it sounds like they really want this and we need to push the right points and push and answer the right way to get them to completely commit. So he mutes the phone and coaches Shane because he wants Shane to deliver the message and not him. Some of the blow or some of the sharpness of the question could be softened by the fact that Shane, well, it's his first time doing this type of stuff and he's just curious. It was a genius move. Genius, but that's conference call etiquette. You don't just whisper, you mute and you talk to each other and still try to pay attention to what's being said. This is exactly what was probably happening on the Morphe side also when they were speaking. You can be sure the Morphe team is on the other side hitting mute saying, oh my gosh, this is going to be way bigger than we expected. Okay, so how many can we handle? You run the numbers. Quick, call so-and-so. Okay, we're going to be doing this. That's exactly what happens on those calls. You mute, you discuss, and then you come back at it because you have to compartmentalize during a negotiation. You don't want both sides to be able to hear everything. That's why negotiations in person are even trickier, because you have to be coached in advance and have all those responses memorized in case something like that comes up. At around 24 minutes and 51 seconds, and actually a little bit before then too, there's a long big section of Jeffree and Shane going through the manufacturing building where they're actually putting the True Blood pallets together, which is really, really exciting to see, because what you're looking at is handcrafted pallets. They've built them, they're assembling them by hand. Now, the other parts, of course, have been put together in other places, and I'm sure there was machinery involved in that. But in this day and age, when automation is so cheap and so easy to go and job out, especially outside of the United States, it's impressive to see that Jeffree is staying true to the United States manufacturing efforts and true to employing people to be able to keep incomes going out. He's hiring people to be able to put these things together instead of buying robots and just having them available to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's a lot to be said for someone who thinks that way. It doesn't mean that robots are bad. It's just nice to see someone like Jeffree using people and using people in the United States and offering up jobs and economies around what he does. That's a very honorable position in terms of business. Now, here's an interesting kind of partnership. At about 26 minutes and 20 seconds, Jeffree mentions that he has competitors that he speaks with. He explains that, hey, all of the big ones, all the big players in the market, they talk to each other. And we try to be diplomatic about spacing out product releases so that everybody has as much potential to get some of the market as they can. How about that for an interesting partnership? So you really don't want to burn bridges. You just want to offer a high quality product and work in harmony with as many of the competitors as you can. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes you have bad feelings. Now, the really downside of that is whoever has that bad feeling with someone like Jeffree Star at this point is only going to suffer from it because he's got so much exposure thanks to Shane. He had already his own, but now it's even more from Shane and all of the other artists he's working with. He really is building a huge empire, and it's just genius the way he's piecing it together. So I would not ever want to be a competitor that isn't in harmony with Jeffree Star. But that's just a great example of a different kind of partnership where you wouldn't expect to see it from your competitor. At around 27 minutes and 27 seconds, Jeffree explains to Shane the new paradigm in marketing And that is, where is your point of sale really? When it comes to making YouTube videos, a lot of folks think that I'm going to start a YouTube channel, I'm going to make money off of the advertising from YouTube. What they don't realize is actually the paradigm is awareness and credibility brings money. So the YouTube is another form of marketing. I should say the YouTube channel use and building YouTube channels and audience is just more marketing. Sure, some of it's entertainment, like watching a good movie or watching a good television show, but even those movies and television shows have product placement in them. Cars, houses, cities. Cities will pay a lot of money for a film to be filmed in their city because they want that product placement in that popular film. So it's important to understand there is a new shift, a new paradigm in marketing, and that is discovering where your true point of sale actually occurs. And for them, it's occurring in the cosmetics world when they both started in YouTube. Now at 27:45 or around there, you actually hear Morphe ask first for exclusive rights. Remember something, this is a dream come true as far as Jeffree and Shane are concerned, for them to be so interested that they asked first. They asked for exclusive rights. They didn't have to suggest it to them. Now, that's a very powerful position in negotiation simply because he who cares the least has the most power. They want Shane's line, and they don't have to give them. Shane and Jeffree don't have to allow them to have exclusive rights, and they'll be successful either way. So, yeah, okay, we'll consider it. What will you give us? They have the most power. Morphe wants it. Do you understand the dynamic? Around 30 minutes and 33 seconds, and then beyond by about a minute, you hear Morphe actually bring up minimum requirements first. Again, another strong indicator of how bad they want to have this product line from Jeffree and Shane. That's incredible to hear when you're in negotiations and someone is saying, okay, how many do I have to buy from you to make sure that you give me exclusive rights? You've basically got it made. You know they're completely invested. And then, of course, the idea would be that beyond that, what happens beyond this one product? All right, well, no, wait a minute. If we're going to give you exclusive rights for this one launch or for this one product line this time, we've got to build a partnership that means more as we're moving down the road, simply because these episodes are going to be viewed for years, right? This product is going to be selling for years, and Shane Dawson is going to be a huge brand for years. So if we're going to launch with you for exclusive rights, we can't just think about just this one product or just this launch. We need to know you're really going to be partners with us as we move down through the years. It's a very important part, negotiating, give and take. And Morphe, of course, insists that yes, that's their intention. They look forward to being partners for a very, very long time, and profitable partners, in fact. Now, it's funny when Andrew actually forgets that he's wearing the lipstick. It's around 34 minutes and 34 seconds or so. And it's Jeffree that makes the important observation. Andrew is straight. He doesn't wear makeup daily, right? So for him to not notice that he's wearing the lipstick still, that's a good sign. That means the product is doing exactly what it's supposed to. It feels like part of you. That's a really great marketing research spot right there, that he's a straight fella who didn't even realize he had lipstick still on. That's really good product quality. At 35 minutes or so, the most important part of this video is established. Morphe is prompted to give their estimation in terms of their first order to launch. And they name a number that's way above what Shane and Jeffree anticipated. They say, well, at the low side would be 350,000 pallets at about 14 million, and on the high side it'd be about 500,000 pallets and 20 million. Now here's the interesting thing about that. Jeffree and Shane are going, holy cow, that's way more than we anticipated. Yes. What they don't realize is Morphe was shooting low to be safe. They probably could have gotten more, but because both sides felt really good about those numbers, they just moved forward. They didn't push for more. Not about being greedy either, but they didn't want to push the relationship too much in the beginning. They want to grow together and be profitable together. This is not a one-time thing. So it was the perfect balance between, wow, that's more than we expected, and them, Morphe, saying, okay, this is right where we can do it. We could do more if you really insist on it, and we're ready to say yes up there, but this is our sweet spot. That's a wonderful example of good negotiations, but recognize both sides had the same kind of response. Jeffree and Shane said, oh man, that's more than we expected. Morphe said, okay, good, that's a number we can handle. They didn't push for more. So at the end of that conversation, at around 36 minutes, they state over the phone, okay, we agree, we're in. That's it. The deal is done. Remember, a person's only as good as their word, and they just gave their word. That purchase order is as good as printed out and signed with a check that's in the bank. Because you don't give your word in a negotiation like that unless you intend to follow through all the way. Because if you don't, after you do that, you will never do business with that company again. That means that Jeffree Star will bring out all kinds of products for years to come and never use you again. So in reality, the fact of the matter that they agreed orally over the phone, both parties, that deal's done. The paperwork is just a necessary final step. That just takes lawyers to draw stuff up and signatures to be made, but the deal was done when they agreed. Now around 36:41, another important statement from Morphe occurs. This is just the beginning, Shane. They intend, with that statement, to be in business with Shane and Jeffree for many years to come. Jeffree has just set Shane Dawson up for life. I mean, he was already successful as a YouTuber. He was already doing very well. I mean, come on. He was living in a multi-million-dollar home in Los Angeles, where it's expensive just to get a studio apartment, right? He had a nice house. He had 2 nice houses, and he has cars, and he can fly, and he do. Now, he still has to work, right? But he's doing very, very well. Now, Jeffree comes along and teaches him the secrets of exploring other industries and leveraging the audience, the awareness, and the credibility he has. And in one deal, bam, he's set for life. Not even because the deal was for $20 million. Not even for the fact that he's going to net, Shane is going to net about $10 million himself, right? From the whole, from not just from Morphe, but from the online sales and everything, right? Probably around $10 million he'll walk away with. That could set him up for life also. But from what Morphe said, and from what everything that Jeffree has indicated so far, Shane Dawson's brand is going to become a worldwide icon for the rest of time. So Jeffree and Shane's families and grandparents and grandkids and great-grandchildren and extended family will have all kinds of opportunities that most people never even experience. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about that deal. That phone call right there just established that Shane Dawson will be around for a very, very long time. Not just as a human being living, but as an iconic brand. Now, a debriefing meeting is what occurred about 37 minutes immediately after the Morphe call. And you can be sure that the debriefing that Jeffree was giving Shane, which is where he explains what just happened on this phone call, what does it mean to you, how much is it worth, now what are our next steps, what are your next responsibilities, right? Like almost another strategy meeting, only now we're moving, we're actually doing something. You can be sure that on the Morphe side, they were doing the exact same thing. They were having a debrief meeting going, oh my God, okay, we have to shift the holiday stuff around. He's going to launch on the 1st. Contact so-and-so. Contact these people. We got to move our manufacturing. We got to move our shipping. All of these big pieces in industry have to be adjusted for that conversation. That one conversation sparked so much movement on both sides, you cannot even imagine. It would make your head spin. Now, here's the contrast, right? In business, you have a phone call like that, And after the phone call, boom, everybody starts going and moving and making things happen, right? Because it's about being profitable, staying in business, making money, and supplying a need that people are looking for. They're not selling, they're supplying a need, right? If you're in government, a phone call like that would turn into, okay, well, we need to review with the committee, and okay, well, the committee's going to meet with the researchers, and we're going to bring that data together and make sure that we're looking at the data properly, and then we'll have another committee meeting, and then we'll vote next month, and by next year, we might have an idea of what we're going to do 2 years down the road. That's the difference between business and government. That phone call ended and people went to work and started making things happen immediately. They knew exactly what they were supposed to do. The contrast to that is phone calls like that, conference calls like that with government offices are a quagmire of bureaucracy. It takes forever to get anything done for a whole bunch of different reasons. And it's not evil or necessarily even bad. It just is the way things are right now. So look at that debriefing meeting and recognize how valuable it is to have successful business happen for the world. Because guess what? Things get done. So 37 minutes and 20 seconds or so, they start to talk about what will happen for Shane besides the sales that happen with Morphe, and how much they need to order for Jeffree's website and the online presence. Because that's going to be basically Morphe, how many numbers they choose, plus some. They expect to sell not just what Morphe's asking, but more than that. And the total ends up being 1 million pallets, or just under 1 million pallets, and about $35 million gross profit for this launch. Remember, this is just for the launch, guys. That doesn't count all the days after, all the years after, all the decades after that Shane Dawson's palette stays popular. So this is an incredible opportunity to see inside of deals that most people would never have the chance to hear or learn anything about, and they are just giving it to you for free. So at about 37 minutes and 49 seconds, the shade placement takes place. And this is really important because remember, what is a palette, right? This is the mainstay of the line to start for Shane Dawson. The palette is a box, and it's a very fancy box, but the product is the color inside the box. And so the way it's laid out has to have a visual impact that produces an emotional response. So how they lay it out is absolutely vital. Watch very carefully how they do that. Oh, this is really cool. Jeffree makes it clear at about 39 minutes and 12 seconds, around there, that Shane's launch will be the largest purchase order he's ever done, ever in the history. And then his manufacturing manager says, by a long shot. So this is not, okay, he's just beating me by a little bit. This is a holy cow, he's changed the entire way we do business. It's a good thing he bought extra buildings. They're gonna need it, and they may outgrow those just as fast as they bought them. Okay, at about 40 minutes and 19 seconds, it's hilarious to watch Shane slip back into his old habit of what if they don't sell? Fear, it's so hilarious to watch. And then what does Jeffree do? Well, what will happen if they don't sell is that they'll sit in a warehouse and rot and you'll ruin my business. And he laughs, right? And it makes Shane laugh and relax too. Because the truth of the matter is, even if Shane didn't sell one item, Jeffree and his business would still continue. He's making money off of all of the products that have been released before and all of the artists that have been released before. Now, would it be an easy hit to take with all of the investment he's made? No, it would not be easy. And it would really suck to have that kind of a slowdown in terms of momentum energetically for a business. But the fact of the matter is, Jeffree would be fine. Shane would be devastated, and he would, feel bad for dragging Jeffree through all that. But the fact of the matter is he'd be fine. And that's why Jeffree could joke about it. But he also understands that he needs to help Shane to see the positive of it, that they're already successful. Not only, see, this is one of the things Shane really needs to learn to overcome this. He's already successful as a YouTube artist, right? And now he's already successful as a cosmetics artist because Morphe just agreed to buy 350 to 500,000 pallets of his product. The deal's done. That paperwork is just a formality now. So for him to start feeling fear again is absolutely ludicrous. The evidence, a mountain of evidence, is clearly indicating 20,000 people in Sacramento screaming, Shane, Shane, Shane. People online going crazy. Morphe ordering that many pallets and promising to do business for that many years. It really is almost a small version of kind of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over. Thank the Lord that Jeffree is so experienced and so successful and so positive about what they're doing that his tidal wave of good energy just washes over Shane and finally slowly starts to break him out of that terrible habit. You got to realize this guy has had so many things happen in his life, Jeffree, that could have stopped him, right? And could have made him just crawl up in a hole and slowly shrivel away and everybody just forget about him. But instead what he did is he stood up and he fought the good fight and he kept working and he kept going and he came up with better ideas and found other ways and built an empire. And now he is giving that same kind of thinking and energy to Shane. And it was just really interesting to watch Shane slip into that old habit again. It was almost like this trench-sized groove with a record needle of Shane, what if, it'll go wrong, what if, oh no, what happens if we don't sell? And you know what Jeffree did? He went, take that needle and put it over on this record of, oh my gosh, it's working, we're making money, we just sold 350 to 500,000 pallets. Congratulations, life is good, it's working, we're friends, this is wonderful, you have an amazing product. He just picked up the needle and moved it over. It was just wonderful to see him do that. But be careful about how you think and speak out loud about yourself, about others, and about what you're doing, because that determines your path, right? So that would be the one thing I would say to Shane if I ever got to meet him face to face. Stop the what ifs. And if you're going to do a what if, make sure it's a what if we sell out too fast? What if we supply and everybody, they fly off the shelves? What happens then? What if we make too much money? Well, you could always start a charity. I mean, come on. There's all kinds of things you could do to help other people. You could start a school that teaches people how to do what you just did. Start your YouTube channel, build your audience, find a product you're passionate about, and then get some funding to help manufacture it. I mean, that's a whole process from beginning to end, waiting to be taught to other people. It's beautiful. So that's why that particular part struck me so deeply. Now, around 42 minutes and 19 seconds, there is evidence to what I just described with Shane. He's so what if, and this young woman is helping him with the colors and shaping and picking for which ones for which palette. And she says, listen, people are going to love it because they love you. You're real. That is the new paradigm. People love it because they love you, because you're real. You're a real human being. You have real feelings. You're not fake. You explain yourself, and sometimes you have challenges, but you get up and you keep going. Do you see what I mean? It just is about awareness and credibility, and he has it, and she reminded him. And she's exactly right. People do love it, and they love him. It's a huge success. It's a win-win for everyone. Now, in the video, several times in this series, when Jeffree met that little girl in Sacramento, that image keeps appearing throughout this series because it's an important statement clearly to Shane and Jeffree. Remember, Shane has had a little bit of controversy himself, and Jeffree has had a lot of controversy. But they're trying to sell to a wider demographic. They're trying to promote to a wider market. And the way that you program people that you are available for a wider market instead of an extreme niche market is you include family, you include children. children and you give them product that's okay for them to hear and see and use. You don't have swear words, you don't have obscenity, you don't have violence, you don't have... And so really what you're seeing is Jeffree and Shane maturing as artists and as business people. That's a very important indicator of where they are in their lives personally and professionally. The last thing I'd like to talk about for this particular video is take note of all the videos before and any of them coming up for the music product placement. Are these artists that you've heard of, or are these new independent artists that arranged deals with Shane to get exposure during this incredible series? I mean, I would. I write music and I would love to have been able to do placement with Shane. That would be amazing. So think about everything that you see in these videos, every segment, every frame, every sound, every word. That's all there for a reason. And it's a great example of new music placement. What a very exciting venue for musicians. So that's it for this particular video on the 20 million deal with Jeffree Star. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you like it, give us a thumbs up and make sure you crush the subscribe button. Just crush it. And just let us know what you thought about the videos, things you might think we could improve upon, or questions you like answered. And if any of you have any questions about mastering money as a whole, as a general topic, we actually have a course called The Richest You Mastering Money. So make sure you check out that link down below. Until the next one, take care and make sure you tune in to Jeffree and Shane as they conquer the cosmetics world.